Hey guys, welcome back to another episode on the 71 Cutlass. I got a lot of updates for you guys on this car. We're going in a different direction and a lot of changes are about to be made. So I know in the last video I told everybody that we were going to final install everything and try and get this thing started, but sadly we are changing course on this car. I actually got off the phone with the owner of this car and he decided that he wants this painted. I was really trying to get this thing ready for him by summer, but there was just so much fabrication and so much work that had to go into the car. It just wasn't possible. So he decided to pull the trigger and we are actually going to completely tear this car all the way down, get it on the rotisserie, get the body out, sandblasted. I know there's some weird stuff going on inside the quarters, so we're gonna have to maybe do quarters on this car, maybe a little bit of metal work on the fenders, and then we're pretty much doing all body and a complete paint job on this car. So as of right now, we are stopping install of everything because I have to pull everything out again, which is hilarious because literally in the last episode, I final installed all of this. Got the drivetrain bolted up for the last time, so everything is final installed. So it's time to pull everything back out, which, I mean, it's okay. This car's gonna be so much better now. I'm so excited to go all out and get this thing done the way it should be done. So on that note, let's get started on the Cutlass. So first things first is I'm gonna work on getting the motor unbolted. So I'm gonna get it disconnected from the trans, disconnected from the flywheel, and then we're going to pull the valve covers off because we don't want to scratch them, and then we're going to pull the motor, get it on the motor stand and tucked away, and then we'll work on getting the transmission out. Then I think after that, we're going to work on getting all of the front completely disassembled, get the fenders off, and then start to work our way into the interior. So let's get this motor pulled. Okay, drivetrain is out of the Cutlass. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna get this motor on the engine stand since we are going to pretty much take this whole thing apart. I can't have it in the way. So I'm gonna get the trans separated from the motor right now. That is just these 3 bolts right here that connect the flywheel to the torque converter, and then these bell housing bolts right here. There's about 8 of them. Get all those disconnected and then it'll separate. And then we're gonna have to take off the flywheel so we can mount the motor to the motor stand. Okay, so I actually don't have the right bolts to bolt the motor up to my engine stand. So I'm gonna have to go get 4 of them and then tomorrow we'll be able to bolt that up. So I'm just gonna keep moving along. I'm gonna baggie all of my bolts and label everything. I'm at a point where I need to label everything that way I don't forget where it goes. And then after that, I think we can start to disassemble our front end, get the intercooler out, the brackets that I made out, and then really start to take off the fenders and the core support. Okay, check that out. Fenders are off. There was a ton of dirt and gunk inside both of the fenders. Of course, right here, this one was terrible. And luckily, I only had to cut 1 bolt off of the bottom of each of these fenders. But if you look at these fenders, they don't look too bad except this one right here. If you look underneath it, that looks pretty bad. So I had to cut this bolt off right here because they mudded over the top of it and it was just spinning. But hopefully we don't run into too many surprises. I actually just saw this. Look at all these bubbles that are happening on this paint right here. Pretty crazy. It sucks because it's a gorgeous color, but man, if you don't prep your panels right, this is what happens. My buddy actually paid about 10 grand to get this car painted, and it was probably painted 3 or 4 years ago. So kind of sucks, but it just shows you have to prep your panels correctly or else this will happen. I mean, it's just inevitable. So last thing I'm gonna get off before I leave tonight is the core support. I have to get the intercooler out, the brackets out, and then pull the core support mounts out, and then this whole thing will pretty much come off. Okay, core support is off. Both of the bolts snapped. They were super rusted, so it's okay. I'm replacing all of the body bolts on this. Crazy how big of a difference it makes when you take off a couple panels, but I'm super excited to get the rest of this all torn apart and get the body on the rotisserie. But that's pretty much going to be it for tonight. I'm going to clean everything up and then come back tomorrow. We're going to finish disassembling the firewall, get the doors disassembled, get the doors off, and then get the deck lid off. Okay, back at it, another day working on the Cutlass. Plan for today is I'm gonna get the entire firewall disassembled, get the engine harness pulled out from underneath the dash, really try and get the entire firewall completely disassembled. Gonna pull the steering column, gonna pull the steering box, all of that has to come off. So let's get started on that. Okay, I'm cruising along. Pretty much all I have left to get off the firewall is the steering column and then the throttle cable. So the throttle cable is going to be super quick, but the steering column I have to disconnect from the steering box, and then also I have to disconnect it under the dash and pull it out. And then after that, we're going to move to the wiring bulkhead. So we're going to get that disconnected, and then we're going to get the entire dash wiring removed from the car. That took me way longer than I thought it would. So that is all of the dash and speaker wiring. I really didn't realize there was that many wires, but now looking at it like this, there are tons of wires. I made sure to label all the wires. I'm pretty familiar with this car, but if you're doing this for the first time on your car, you're really gonna wanna take your time and label and bag everything. You could see I am bagging and labeling all of my bolts just because I know this car is going to be apart for a couple of months and you're going to forget. So it's best to label everything, take tons of pictures, and just take your time. I know a lot of people skip out on the labeling and taking pictures step just because you think, you know what, I'm just going to get this done. I don't want to sit here and waste time and it takes too long. But really, you save yourself so much time in the long run. Your car's going to be apart for at least 6 months, if not years. And by the time you go to put it back together, you're not going to know where anything goes. So I'm just telling you from experience, I have done this. I did this on my Blazer, and I don't know how I'm going to put that thing back together. It's going to be a pain in the butt. You really just want to take these little steps and make your life a little bit easier. Trust me, you'll thank me in the long run. So now I'm going to pull out the rest of the wiring. It's just sitting there in the car. I'm going to pull off all of the accessories on the dash, and then we're pretty much going to move to the doors. We're going to get the doors off, get them completely disassembled. That way we can start stripping the outside and getting them ready for sandblast. Okay, got that first door gutted, so now it's time to move to the driver door, pretty much do the entire same thing again and get this door completely gutted. Okay, look at that. I made a lot of progress. Got both of the doors completely disassembled. Super weird. I've never seen mirrors that are riveted on that you have to drill out. They're usually all bolt on. So that was different for me. But the doors are pretty much all the way ready. I just have to get the latches off on both of the doors. I don't have my tools, so I'm gonna grab it from work, come home tomorrow, finish that up. Deck lid is completely stripped and ready to go. So now we're gonna move to the rear of the car. We're gonna get everything stripped out of the trunk and labeled and gone. So it shouldn't be too hard, but let's get started on that. Both of the doors are completely disassembled and gutted, so they are pretty much ready for me to strip. Now really the last part that I have to do on the interior is get the dash pulled and then also get these rear quarter panels pulled. I got this one pulled already, so I just gotta pull that one quick, and then I have to pull all the insides to the rear windows and get them out as well. Then after that, we're gonna do the package tray, get that out, and then see if we can pull this headliner, and that will be pretty much it for the interior. Okay, so all of the rear window part is completely stripped down. Also got the rear package tray out, and as you just saw, we finished pulling the headliner. So that pretty much finishes up our interior. All we have left to do is get the dashboard out, but I'm gonna come tomorrow and I'm gonna organize this and box all this, and then we'll pull out the dash. And then I also have to pull the carpet in the trunk, but really that is pretty much it all the way back here. I'm gonna push the car forward and work on getting this rear bumper and the taillights and everything out. And then I think that pretty much finishes up the disassembly. I gotta get the trim off on the windshield, and then I'm gonna go get a tool from Harbor Freight tomorrow. That way I can pull both of the glass. But we are pretty close to being done disassembling this. So I'm gonna push the car forward. We're gonna get the bumper off. And then I think we're gonna actually start loosening all of our body mounts. That way we can get this thing up off the frame. Okay, I got all the body mounts unbolted from the car. I had to actually cut off a couple. I had to cut off this one right here, and then I also had to use the Sawzall and cut off the two front ones. Because on these cars and on the Chevelles, they have nuts that are actually inside the body, so you cannot get to the top of this. You can see there's a piece right here. What they have is they have a little nut with two tabs, and once these bolts get rusty, they break that nut free, and then they just spin and spin, and there's nothing you can do about it, so you have to cut them off. And then I'm probably gonna actually have to cut the floor and get in there and tack weld those into place, just so that they stop spinning when I install the new bolts. So pretty cool. Cutlass is pretty much ready to come off the frame. Tomorrow I'm going to get all the parts organized, put away, get the rear glass out, front glass out, and then we are going to lift this thing up and get it off the frame. Okay, well, surprise, surprise, I'm getting this removed because I want to get the inside of here blasted. And since we are painting this and we're going to be making sure this is done correctly, I just wanted to pull this off, and I found a lot of issues. So it's going to be interesting to see how much of this floor is bad. Hopefully we don't have to do an entire floor. Hopefully it'll just be like this front patch right here, because I knew that this spot was bad. I could see it underneath, but the rest of it I couldn't see. So I'm gonna get the rest of this kill mat removed, and we're gonna see if we potentially have to order a floor. Okay, so all of the Dynamat is removed. Really, only issue I found was this floor pan right here. So I'm gonna have to order this section, and then we're gonna replace that. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it for the work on the Cutlass in this episode. Got a ton done. All the interior is pretty much stripped, and we are getting extremely close to pulling this thing off the frame. So in the next episode, we're gonna get the glass out, and then we're gonna get the Cutlass off the frame on the rotisserie and then blasted. So thanks so much for watching. I'll see you guys next time. Peace out.